Africa Prime, brought to you by Jameson's Select Reserve.
Welcome back to Africa Prime, the show that brings you insight into pertinent issues affecting the African continent. We continue our conversation on the issues dividing black and white business in South Africa, and we've got a spokesman for the Black Business Council, Sandile Zungu, who is also a businessman in his own right. Sandile, so we've got these divisions at the macro level. Let's go to the shop floor. Let's go to where you operate as a business person. How difficult and how different is it, would you say, to maybe the same struggles that are faced by a white business person? We have to use the racial stereotypes because we want to discuss the issue of the racial divisions that are afflicting Busa.
Well, at a personal level, I've been very privileged.
Sure.
In that I went into business when it was not fashionable for young black people to go into business in the late 1990s. And so under my wings, I can talk of at least 15 years entrepreneurial experience. I've seen it. I've seen difficulty just battling to secure an appointment, just to talk sense.
An appointment with who? With funders? With the banks?
Whether it's funders or people who want to buy their businesses.
Right.
Or buy into their businesses. Just the difficulty, maybe because your stature, you look like a young person, or you don't come with political credentials that they will love to see in their partners, or simply because you don't have certain people and you don't know them in first name terms.
Yeah.
So those are minor issues, but certainly as a black person in South Africa, one does indeed experience that difficulty where you have to have many meetings with the prospective funders before you begin to make sense to them. Even if the business plan has been developed by the same accounting firm that would have developed for your white counterpart.
Yeah, but what is the problem here? Is it not surely the environment? And we know the environment to a large degree is shaped by the government. Therefore, should we not be knocking at government's door and saying, why can't you create the right conditions for black businesses to flourish?
Well, it's easier said than done. Sure. Remember, South African economy, unlike many economies, dare I say, in the continent of Africa, government is not as dominant a player as the private sector.
But it influences the environment. It influences the macro, the regulatory framework. Absolutely.
That's why there are lots of acts that talk to transforming the economy. You've got the BBBEE Act, which has made wonders in terms of moving the whole of South Africa towards transformation, embracing a transformation agenda. But the problem is that the private sector, true to form, will always try and find ways in which they could circumvent those provisions. And therefore, one talks about fronting being the ill in business today. That people don't want to implement the rules as set by government. They want to circumvent them. So avoidance is the name of the game. But at the same time, yes, we are not saving the government from criticism. That's why there are reviews of the BE Act, the Codes of Good Practice, to try and make them to bite a bit, to criminalize fronting, among other issues. But the biggest attention must fall on the private sector. To what extent are they allowing the stereotypes of the past, the prejudices of the past, to prevent them from embracing transformation?
But then I turn the conversation around again. Do you want the government involved in private sector business? Because then again, you go into the whole debate about the role of the state in the economy. Politicians, do they know how to run businesses? Can you trust them to run a business efficiently, etc.? Where would you stand as BBC on that front? We
welcome government's participation.
As what? As a player?
As a player, as a referee. There are instances where there will be players. For example, if you look at infrastructure, everyone, private sector, traditional white businesses or black business, they appreciate that government is the one that must spend money on developing rail network. Private sector may want to, but government has got the sole and exclusive right now.
Yeah.
And I think we are awaiting those hundreds of billions of rands from the states. So in that case, they are a player, and they facilitate the participation of new entrants who may be black. But in some cases, they are referees. They have the scorpions, they've got the hawks, they've got other instruments that are there to actually deal with fronting. And to make sure that the practices and the habits of the past must die very quickly. And so they're actually playing the role of referee. And we are saying, play that role properly, but where you are a player, play that role properly. To deepen empowerment, to deepen transformation in the economy.
So we're certainly not talking about a state-controlled economy here, but for me, this conversation that we are having and the conversation around black and white businesses, etc., is taking away business from the central job of the private sector, which is to create jobs for the economy. The story that I would love to be writing is how the economy can grow more jobs, instead of the conversation around the different business blocks crystallized along black and white lines.
Well, I think South Africa is a peculiar, it's a very peculiar territory. We've got our peculiar histories. And trust me, as a learned person in business, I would like to see business just focus on
creating jobs, on getting money.
Growing the economy by default, because they are players, and paying taxes to government, which the government must use efficiently and effectively to deal with the social ills. Lovely. That's where we'll all love to be. But the reality is there are issues of inequality which are deep and entrenched, and which, unless we resolve very quickly, all of us holding hands, private sector, government, labor, and organizations of civic society, holding hands, these inequalities will continue to be entrenched, and they will also actually take them as they were meant to be. They are not meant to be. And therefore, government, or rather business, needs to move away from their traditional role of creating jobs and growing the economy. I will even argue that business will see itself as not solely responsible for creating jobs. They will say theirs is to conduct business, and jobs become a byproduct. That's a classical argument that they'll raise. And I'm saying, and that's what black business is saying, is that we need to step out of our box, and let's embrace fighting poverty. Let's embrace fighting inequalities. Let's embrace job creation, and let's embrace accelerated growth, because all of them are very important in South African context.
It sounds like you're speaking like a politician.
I'm not a politician, I'm a business person. But, the truth is, at some stage, if you're in business, once you operate at a certain level, the linkages with politics, or linkages with government, and the linkages with organized civil society are so unavoidable that you end up talking macro political issues as well.
So how long do you take, and I want to put you on the spot here, I'm looking for a number of years or a number of months or a number of weeks, how long do you think it will take to fully unite South African business together, so business talks with one voice across national issues such as nationalization, across national issues such as creating jobs, etc.?
We thought we were there 8 years ago. We appreciated that there were deep divisions. We appreciated that the ills in society were much bigger than we'll have preferred, but we embraced the issue of business unity, because we thought this is work in progress, and we'll resolve issues as we move along. But clearly, in the last 8 years, we've proved ourselves wrong. We like to believe that some of these things can be resolved as we move much along. But there are, of course, there's a school of thought that says, look, have set targets, ownership, management of the economy, and once those targets are achieved, then the playing field is level. And I subscribe to a school of thought that says South African Constitution and the people of South Africa want us to build a non-racial society, and they expect us to leave no stone unturned to achieve that. And it's not going to be easy, it's going to be work in progress, and let's embrace that. But it cannot be at all costs. There's got to be basic rules of engagement that make it easy for people to then embrace change and be involved in it without feeling they've sacrificed too much.
Before we let you go, Sandile, let's talk about the progress that you have made since the public announcement that you were splitting away from BUSA and forming the Black Business Council again. Have we seen any movement forward? What tangible steps have been taken to bring the two together again?
Okay, first of all, we have not split from BUSA. We've suspended our participation.
You have moved away temporarily?
Yeah, exactly. So that we can give enough space to coalescence of ideas so that we can then engage from a position of strength.
Sure.
But what we have achieved, number one, we're working very hard at the level of BBC, because the Black Business Council of today must be hugely different to the BBC or anything like that of the past.
Sure.
We must have capacity, we must have clarity in terms of objectives, we must have leadership that can stand to scrutiny, and so on and so forth. The constitution that we must adopt, present to the founding Congress of BBC, which will be shortly, must be the one that can stand the test of time.
Sure.
We're working very hard in various task teams in that regard. And at the same time, we've constituted a task team that will be engaging BUSA directly on negotiations. It's led by the president of FAPCOS, Sandile Zungu, a very seasoned business person.
Sure.
So we are paying attention to all issues that we need to. At the same time, we're engaging with other stakeholders, political parties, trade union movements, youth formations, churches. We have a worked out program of action towards engaging with all of those. And we want to, at the end of the day, to launch the Black Business Council before the current year is over.
Sandile, we have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed, and we wish you well in your endeavors to try and find common ground between black and white businesses, so it just becomes one word: business. Sandile Zungu, he is spokesperson for the Black Business Council as well as chairman of Zungu Investment Company. I must say we also invited the new president of BUSA to come in for a conversation on this very topic, and unfortunately they were unable to join us for this conversation. But that's it. That's where we leave it today for Africa Prime. Please do join us again next week as we take another in-depth look at issues affecting the African continent as we try and create jobs across the continent. Until then, I'm Godfrey Mutizwa. Goodbye.